On May 2, 2017, Jason Crawford, 37, found his wife Tiffany Crawford, 32, slumped in the driver's seat of her own vehicle outside of their house in Cullman, Alabama, which is located approximately 50 miles north of Birmingham.
Tell me exactly what's going on.
My wife is being shot.
My wife is shot. Tiffany was holding a pink pistol in her left hand, which Jason said she kept in her driver's side door for safety when Cullman County Sheriff's officers arrived at the scene. Jason Crawford told the officers that he and Tiffany had been arguing. He claimed he wasn't going to allow her into the home that night, so he was gathering some of her clothes. And the last thing I remember, she said she loved me and I was going in the house, Crawford told the deputies. And I heard a shot, a scream, and then another shot. Tiffany Crawford suffered 2 head wounds from gunfire. One hit the left side of her jaw, the other her left temple. At least one sheriff's deputy who was present at the scene thought she had committed suicide. It was already too late for the paramedics to resuscitate Tiffany, and they came over and told me that she was dead. It just made me feel sick in my stomach. Jason Crawford said, "This seeming suicide is only the start of a tale of lies to be unraveled." Hi guys, and welcome back to Crimeco, where we break down some of the most gruesome true crime cases from all over the world, giving you the most up-to-date detailed information. If that sounds like something you are interested in, be sure to subscribe and don't forget to give this video a like. A like from you really helps the channel. Thank you. Now let's dive in. Before her death, Tiffany and Jason had been married for more than 6 years. Although it wasn't quite a fairy tale beginning when they initially started going out. Jason Crawford had already been divorced for several years after he says his first wife cheated on him. Tiffany was also married at the time, but that didn't change the way Crawford felt about her. "I thought she was striking and beautiful. She was outgoing. A lot of things I wasn't," Crawford said. Eventually, Tiffany got divorced. In 2011, Jason and Tiffany got married and she became a stepmom to Jason's son Logan from his previous marriage. The couple would also have a son of their own shortly after, and then a daughter the following year. And as the kids grew up, Tiffany was very active in their lives. She was very involved with her children, seeing that they were happy. She even started a support group on Facebook called Mothers Helping Mothers. She saw a vision that there were other mothers that needed somebody to talk to. And that group took off like a wildfire and spread all over the country. At the time of Tiffany's death, the group had about 9,000 members. Let's go back to the crime scene. Jason and Tiffany's 5-year-old son and 4-year-old daughter were both fast asleep inside the house on the night of the shooting. Crawford claimed that his son Logan, who was at the time 14 years old, was also there, and that he had instructed Logan to call his grandparents and have them come over right away. When Crawford's parents arrived, the officers at the scene realized that Jason was the son of Rhonda Crawford, an office manager at the Cullman County Sheriff's Office. Cullman County Sheriff Matt Gentry went to the Crawford scene that evening because the incident involved one of his employees' close relatives. When the sheriff arrived, he spoke with the coroner, who informed him that Tiffany's death appeared to be a suicide, according to Sheriff Gentry. The only unusual thing, according to him, is that there are 2 shots. Gentry decided that because of Jason's mother's connection to his office, he wanted an autopsy done. Sheriff Gentry made the decision to turn the case over to the Alabama State Bureau of Investigation the following morning after the sheriff's investigators had analyzed the scene that evening. Joe Parrish was the state agent assigned to the case. Gentry said that he felt there was a potential conflict of interest because of Jason's mother Rhonda's connection to his office, so he wants full transparency. Joe Parrish started by securing a search warrant for Tiffany Crawford's van. The van had been given to the Crawford family by the sheriff's office the previous evening, which was a problem. Less than 24 hours after Tiffany's passing, Parrish arrived at the scene, and it had already been cleaned by Jason's family. The sheriff's department had given them the go-ahead, so there was nothing of evidentiary value to the van, as every necessary piece of evidence was taken. Like in most cases that move right, there is the starting point of a long and difficult journey to explain why someone who took their own life was shot twice. The discovery of Tiffany's affairs gave the investigation a new direction. When Parrish started investigating the Crawford case more, he soon discovered that Tiffany was having an affair. Lindsay Luke, a close friend of Tiffany's, was one of the few people who was aware of the relationship. According to Luke, Tiffany told her she was preparing to break up with Jason and had taken a job at a nearby grocery store to start saving money for a new life. Luke has also never thought Tiffany would commit suicide. There was nothing suicidal about Tiffany, because people who are suicidal don't make plans as she did. Did Jason know about the affair? The existence of an affair sure brings up a motive, and hence a possibility that the story being told might not be what really happened. Joe Parrish listened to both the 911 call and watched the body camera footage, but Jason Crawford never mentioned the affair. Parrish claimed that he too believed the 911 call to be suspicious. It was extremely cold, and the voice didn't indicate that the caller was worried about his wife. The 911 dispatcher kept asking Crawford the same question, but Crawford wouldn't respond. "Who shot your wife?" But he was avoiding the questions. With Tiffany's autopsy still pending a week after she passed away, Parrish called Jason Crawford in for questioning. Crawford claimed in that interview to have seen a change in Tiffany in the months prior to her passing. According to Crawford, she started drinking more. Crawford also confirmed that Tiffany was right-handed, which key information for Parrish was given that the gun was found in Tiffany's left hand. Crawford also revealed in this interview that on the day of Tiffany's passing, he found messages on their computer indicating that she was having an affair. He claimed to have called Tiffany to inform her of what he had discovered, but she denied it. A short while later, Tiffany brought their 2 children home. Tiffany was then instructed to remain outside, as Crawford brought them inside the house. Jason Crawford explained to Parrish that he and Tiffany argued for more than an hour, and when he remained insistent that Tiffany wasn't allowed inside the house, he said she asked him to get her work clothes. "I was going in the house. I just shut the door when I heard a shot, a scream, and then another shot," he told Parrish. Crawford said he then ran back outside, pulled the driver's door open, and called 911. After the interview ended, Crawford was free to go. A week or so later, Jason was brought back in for additional questioning and consented to a polygraph examination. Crawford was told by the polygraph examiner that his reactions were out of control, but once more, no arrest resulted from that interview. Crawford's autopsy results for about a year, but when the report came back in March 2018, the case has ruled a homicide. Dr. Valerie Green was the medical examiner who performed the autopsy. The thing that made me think that there could be something else going on with this case is that gunshot wound on the left side of Ms. Crawford's head, Dr. Green said. She further explained that based on the absence of gunpowder particles and abrasions around the left temple wound, she concluded that the shot was fired from at least 10 inches away. That's indicating that she's holding her arm outward beyond 10 inches and trying to shoot herself. She believed that to be unlikely, especially because Jason reported that he found Tiffany in the driver's seat of her own van with the gun in her left hand and the car door closed. Dr. Green was also concerned about the van. "I remember looking at pictures of the driver's side door. I also failed to notice any blood on that door. There was no blood visible on the glass." Green was convinced as a result that Tiffany was shot while the door was open. Green added, "And I believe that door is open because he was standing there." Investigator Joe Parrish and Jeff Roberts, the assistant district attorney for Cullman County at the time, presented the case to a grand jury after the medical examiner declared the death to be a homicide. the grand jury returned an indictment charging Jason Crawford with murder. Just over a year after Tiffany's passing, on May 21, 2018, Crawford turned himself in at the Cullman County Sheriff's Office. However, he was only detained for 30 minutes before being freed on bond. Robert Tupin and Nicholas Weatherly became Jason Crawford's defense attorneys. "We don't believe Jason is guilty at all. They did not see blood or anything on him. They found nothing that would indicate he had fired a firearm recently." They defended that Crawford was never tested for gunshot residue on the night of the shooting, and his house was never searched for bloody clothing. His attorneys also believe that Crawford was inside the house when the shots rang out, especially because his oldest son Logan told investigators that he heard his father come back inside right before the first gunshot. Attorney Jeff Roberts and his assistant Deborah Ball were confident in their case to convict Crawford. "I was unable to identify the other perpetrator. The only person who had a reason to do it was him," Roberts said. Roberts acknowledged that it would be challenging to get past the fact that at least one officer was present at the scene and believed the shooting to be consistent with a suicide. Additionally, there was no concrete physical evidence connecting Jason and Tiffany's death. Jason Crawford was put on trial for Tiffany's murder in November 2022, more than 5 years after she passed away. In addition to playing the 911 call for the jury, the prosecution also showed them some of the body camera footage. Attorney Jeff Roberts argued that Crawford's alleged motivation was retaliation for his wife's extramarital affair. According to one of Tiffany's friends, when Jason found out that Tiffany had been having an affair, he called her and said he couldn't go through this again, alluding to the fact that his first wife had also been having an affair. Crawford claims he didn't say that, though. Additionally, the prosecution called DNA expert Angela Fletcher, who examined swabs from Tiffany's gun. She stated in her report that she was unable to confirm whether any female DNA was present on the gun because there was only a very small amount of DNA found on it. But she knew that the trigger and the grip were made of male DNA. She was unable to verify whether Jason Crawford's DNA was present in that sample. Due to the only little amount of DNA found on the weapon, the prosecution claimed that Jason Crawford must have cleaned the weapon before placing it in Tiffany's hand. There is no proof of this, according to the defense. The medical examiner, Dr. Valerie Green, provided Crawford with some of her most disturbing testimony, though. She explained to the jury that she thought the bullet that struck Tiffany in the temple came from a distance greater than 10 inches. A pre-recorded deposition with Dr. James Lauritsen, the former chief medical examiner of Alabama, was played for the jury by the defense. "I think that she first shot herself in the left side of the face, then in the left side of the head." He further stated that because of Tiffany's hair, it was impossible to determine the exact distance at which the shot to the temple was fired. In addition, the defense claimed that Tiffany was facing emotional difficulties and had just begun seeing a counselor the day before she passed away. Additionally, Tiffany's friends testified that she had been binge drinking and was upset because the man with whom she had an affair had recently broken up with her. Jason Crawford testified on the final day of the trial. He admitted loving Tiffany to the jury and said he didn't intend to kill her. Crawford further testified that on the night Tiffany died, he called her a derogatory name. "I feel sorry because I feel like maybe that contributed to what pushed her over the edge to do that. I was basically talking down to her like she wasn't human." Tiffany's journal was also entered into evidence and portions of it were read out loud to the jury. In an entry dated May 2, 2017, the day she died, she wrote, "I'm struggling with figuring out what to do with myself." After 4 days of testimony, the case went to the jury. Megan Brock was one of the jurors. She said that when the jury got into the deliberation room, several jurors, including her, were on the fence about Jason Crawford's guilt. Megan Brock said the jury deliberated for several hours before they asked to listen to the 911 call again. And that's what Brock said sealed the deal for the group. And when the 911 operator then questioned Crawford about where the gun was, that's when the jury came to a unanimous decision. He clearly said, "The gun is lying beside her," Brock said, when in fact, the body cam footage showed her holding the gun, barely, but holding the gun. 30 minutes after the jury listened to the 911 call, they went back into the courtroom and delivered their verdict. The jury found Jason Crawford guilty of his wife Tiffany's murder. On March 10, 2023, Jason Crawford stood before the judge again as his lawyers plead his innocence. The judge then sentenced Crawford to 99 years in prison. Under Alabama law, he will be eligible for parole in 15 years. Cheryl McGuckin, Tiffany's mother, wants her grandchildren to know how proud their grandmother is of her today. They should also keep in mind who Tiffany was and what she stood for. McGuckin said, "She was just an angel who came down from heaven for a little while to teach us all how to love and be kind and giving. When we think of a partner, we think of love and the beauty in it, not our first date being the start of a tragic end." What are your thoughts? Be sure to leave them in the comment and hit subscribe so you never miss a video.